Hi, everyone. Welcome to By Design with Dr. Erika, a show focused on highlighting amazing women who are stepping out of the box, saying screw the expectations of society, and essentially living their life on their own terms and living the life they were designed for. Today, I am joined by, as always, another amazing woman. I have here Kimberly KP LoveJoy. As a lifelong overcomer, KP has accepted the invitation from God to get out of her proverbial boat and taking the leap of faith and believing in the impossible to help her fulfill the vision he started when she was a homeless teenager. KP is a consultant, trainer, and speaker, and through her more than 20 years of nonprofit and federal service, KP has developed tools to help her clients uncover root causes of their brokenness and take authority over the lies that they believe. Love and joy are the foundation for all she does to help heal our hurting humanity. Rooted in the message of, I love this, embracing the suck. Love it. KP loves to guide clients as they transform their brokenness to breakthrough and live fully revived in their overcomer story. KP, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Erika. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Yay, I'm so glad that you're here. Now, you know, KP, we say KP, and I know there's a story behind this, but the audience may not know the story behind your name. So just before we even get into anything, tell us about KP and how that came about.
Oh my gosh, it's such a great story because part of my identity, I have an identity thief, just like all of us do, right?
Uh-huh.
Somebody who comes to steal and lie and tell us we're not worthy, tell us we're not good enough. And I believed those lies for many years because I came out of a very broken home environment. And I'll tell you about that in a minute. But my name came out of when I was serving sexually exploited little kiddos. A little 5-year-old started calling me Kim Possible. And I was like, well, who's Kim Possible? I don't know who that is. I don't watch Disney. And he proceeded to show me this cartoon of Kim Possible, this Disney character who, if you don't know, is the greatest. And she is teenager cheerleader by day, and then she spy and saves the world by night. And so he took my name Kimberly and he started calling me Kim Possible, which is perfect because I believe everything is possible. I believe truly that every one of us has a identity that we don't even know is hidden because of all the lies we've believed over the years about our worth, about our purpose, about our passion and our calling. And so I decided to rebrand, to rename myself so that I live in the fullness of that identity. And I think nothing is impossible. And we can live on those promises.
I love that.
KP, it's Kim Possible.
You are the real life Kim Possible. Love it. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. I will say I would be a horrible cheerleader.
You'd be a horrible cheerleader?
I'm not coordinated at all.
You excel in other things. It's okay.
Thank you.
You talked about like a little bit into your past, and we mentioned very briefly, your time being homeless as a teenager. So how did you get from that moment and those struggles to where you are now?
Yeah, well, thank you for asking that. I think it's, this is the thing I love about story is that every one of us has a story. And most of the time we were told that our story doesn't matter and our story is insignificant. But I really believe that when we start asking ourselves the questions about our identity, we have to go to the point of the brokenness, because 9 times out of 10, what I see, and I know you see, Erika, is that the brokenness tends to lead us into our superpower, or that thing that helps us wake up and realize, wait a minute, I've been believing a lie. My identity's been stolen by this thief who comes to steal and kill and destroy and tell us that we're not worthy. And so in my case, I grew up, believe it or not, in one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in America, but very broken, very dysfunctional. Everything that you saw on the surface was a lie. And so inside there was all forms of brokenness. And we obviously don't have time to list them all out, but when I was a teenager, in that typical teenage angst that teen girls have with their moms, it was one of these headbutting experiences where I thought I knew everything, and my mom said, if you think you know so much, then you need to get out. You don't live here anymore.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so I took my, the teenage I know everything, and I was like, oh, I've got street smarts. I can figure this out, and I'll be fine.
Right. It's easy.
No, no. I could go back in time, I would say, you're wrong. But the beauty of it was, as a homeless teenager, it was this amazing encounter that I had with the man who intended to rape and kill me. And I'm laying face first in the dirt of an alley outside of Denver, Colorado, with this stranger on top of me. And the heaviness of this man could not compare with the heaviness that I had in my heart of love and empathy and compassion, and seeing his identity and seeing his brokenness and saying, what were the lies this man believed about his worth? Where did this come from? Like, what brought him to this point where he believes this is how you treat another human being? And
How
so
did you have that? How did you have like that positive mindset in that stressful, negative situation?
I will say this. At the time, I did not know anything about God, any faith whatsoever. I was this very inspired teenager who thought she knew everything. I cried out at that moment when I'm sitting here trying to figure this out, and I threw up what I called my Hail Mary prayer, Erika. I don't know if any of your listeners have ever done this. Like, God, if you're real,
Right.
please make me stop. And he did. And that moment that man got off of me and left, I knew that God had a plan and a purpose for my life. And I knew, just as he does for every one of us, including everybody who's watching today. And I said, okay, what is the purpose? What is the point? Why didn't I die that night? Why that 4th of July, my life should have ended, but it truly was my Independence Day, because I saw that I had a calling to love the unlovable. This man, clearly broken, clearly something happened in his life that led him to make that decision. And we could go into that we obviously don't have time, but my calling became that real that night when I said, okay, love the unlovable. That's going somewhere. I had no idea what it was. So that's where that came from.
Wow. Loving the unlovable.
Yeah.
As a teenager. So with that, like, a lot of people, they get these callings, these ideas, these thoughts, these visions. And in that moment, it's like, yes, that's what I'm going to do. And then time passes, and those things drift out and you kind of just forget that. So how did you maintain and keep that fire and that knowing that this is your purpose?
I love that question, because I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Most of the time, the unlovable was me. So we go through life and we think we have it all figured out. And I was so broken that even though I knew that in the back of my mind, I always say that the longest journey in the world is from head to heart, is getting that knowledge that we have up here and really, really embracing it in our heart. And it took me many years. So I had this in the back of my mind. It's like somebody was telling me yesterday, it's like the app that's constantly running in the background that you forget that's open. And you're like, oh, wait a minute.
That's a good analogy.
I know, isn't it brilliant?
Right.
I was saying the tape that plays it. He's like, no, nobody has tapes anymore. It's an app.
That is true.
So all that to say, I went on a lifelong journey professionally, looking at mentally, physically, socially, spiritually, financially, vocationally, all of that whole person, and putting those pieces back together in myself. Because believe me, if you could think of any sin, any brokenness, any wrong that's been done, I've either done it or it's been done to me. So I own the brokenness, and this is where the embracing the suck comes from, because a lot of really bad choices have been made by this girl and a lot of really bad things have happened. So I said, well, I'm kind of an expert in getting it wrong. So let's figure out how do we get to the root cause of where that all comes from, and how do we professionally look at how to put it back together in a way that is healthy and healing and loving and, all of this.
Gotcha. Okay. So then that led you to a career in this space. In what capacity? Because we talked about nonprofit, we talked about just, I guess, corporate environment in general. Kind of, where did you land?
Yeah. So I knew that I would so I got my master's in human relations with a counseling emphasis. So looking at the brokenness of humanity and really looking at all those pieces. So I did financial, career, resilience, mental health, family life education, child development, human relations, all violence prevention. I did all of that in nonprofits and with the federal government. And so all these professional certifications and training that I took, and I said, okay, now I know how do we look at the root, dig it out, and replace it with the fruit, the goodness that we want to see. And it's a lot of times it's really ugly, hard work to get to the root, and we don't like that part of it, but but we like to see the fruit. And so this is my whole thing, is we've got to expose that root, we've got to dig that out and get the yuckiness out of our lives before we can actually transform that brokenness into the breakthrough and really live in the overcomer story that I truly believe every one of us has. We've just been held back by so many lies and fear and insecurities and all of these other things that keep us from living fully revived.
Right. So do you think it's more the fear of digging up the root that keeps us there, or is it something else that prevents us from getting to that overcomer story?
Oh gosh, I think it's a lot of individually, it would be hard to blanket statement, but I see a lot of people who, they've been beaten down so much over this, this life, regardless of how old you are. We get told lies all day, every day, by family and friends, well-meaning, intentioned people who really truly love us, tell us, you're stupid, you're fat, you're ugly. They may not even use those words, but you remember the first time you put on a pretty little dress and you came out to dance for your parents and somebody laughed at you, or somebody told you you weren't good, or you're too fat for that dress, or whatever it was. We hear that and we start believing it. And then media, oh my goodness, media messages left and right. What does it mean to be a woman? Today, our sexuality is so much the message that media sends is, you as a woman, you are your sexuality, and the more skin you show, the more of a woman you are, and that messes with us. So right. I think a lot of times, even when we say we want to believe the truth, we want to believe we're worthy, we want to believe we are overcomers, media is constantly pouring messages saying no, 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 no.
And it's funny, as you're saying things that we've heard in the past from family or whatever, it came back to me in my head. I remember being in high school and someone telling me, well, you didn't get asked to the prom because they didn't feel like you were good enough or worthy enough to be asked to the prom. That should not be something that's in my head right now, but it is, and you're right, it does stick with you, and it's sort of that lie that just stays there. And it's hard to let go.
It's so hard to let go. And I mean, and you could ask any woman, I know your audience is primarily women. You could ask anybody of any gender what lie they believed, and I can guarantee you they are going back to high school, middle school, elementary school, and the words, and they will hear the person who said it. They may even remember where they were, what they were wearing, sound, smells, everything, because the memory is attached to all of our emotions and all of our senses. Yeah. That part of our brain that processes our memories is tied to all of that. And so we feel it so deeply, and that wound it takes us back to that traumatic event where, maybe it was child sexual abuse that somebody first told us that your sex is broken, you're damaged goods. And we believe that because something traumatic happened to us as a child, and
Mhm.
and it's very hard for us if we don't do the healing work, that healing journey. We're going to be defined by that if we don't
Right,
really work to fight it.
right. I know we talk about a lot of things that are, I guess, really overt sort of brokenness. Do you think that some people struggle to even recognize that they're broken in the first place?
Oh my goodness, yes, absolutely. So, a perfect example, yesterday I was talking about protecting our children from sexual exploitation. With COVID, we've seen skyrocketing instances of child sexual abuse online because kids are online. Well, guess who else is online right now? The predators.
Yeah.
And so we were talking about the lies that we believe in, even about sexuality and the pornography industry and the messages that are coming in, and how most people think it's harmless entertainment. And so we were talking about the percentages of people that look at pornography and their mind is saying, oh, it's harmless. But the reality and the data is showing that a lot of children, a lot of trafficking victims, a lot of campus rape victims have images that I just literally uploaded on my iPhone to any porn site. And the general population doesn't know that that's a child being raped, that that's a sorority sister who got somebody got her drunk and took them back and gang raped her, and she didn't even know that that video was filmed, and now it's out there. And so that kind of difference between, we don't even realize that we've bought this lie about our sexuality, and the numbers of people that are just watching pornography like it's not even a big deal, and all the violence and exploitation that's going on. And so, yes, I would definitely say there's a very big difference between overt, like clearly, blatantly, and the subtle stuff that people don't even realize is problematic.
Mm. Wow. Okay. That's deep.
Yeah, and I it's a heavy topic
Yeah.
for the beginning of fall, but it's really important because I think such a subtle thing that I bet you ask 9 out of 10 people will say, yeah, pornography is not that big of a deal. let's have it let's have a look at the data and see the subtle nuances that you're missing.
Right. Right. Okay. So now I want to take us back a little bit because we talked about, you being in the government and nonprofit, but did you transition to leaving that role to doing your own thing, or kind of where do you stand now?
Yeah, yes. So this is the funny part is going back to the lies that we believe. I had this idea for my business 20 years ago. And it was this, like, again, you're not worthy, you can't do this, don't, you're fighting with the comfort zone of, well, I have this really great job, and I'm doing the same thing, it's just that I'm doing it for somebody else. Because with the nonprofits and the federal government, I was helping brokenness to break through. I was doing all of this, but I was doing it for somebody else.
Right.
And so, literally, like, it took this whole flipping your boat and having to get out, like you said, getting outside of the box. Like, we have we have limited ourselves, we limit God, we limit our relationships by those lies that we believe in. So until we break out of that box, or we get out of the boat and we say, all right, I'm doing this. And so it literally took flipping my boat to say, like, okay, now you don't have a security blanket anymore. Now you have to go do this thing that you've had as a dream, you've had as this vision, you had the whole business model for 20 years and you've been sitting on it.
Wait, you had everything together and you were just holding it in.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. So like I said, I can teach you what not to do, because I know this is very common, especially among women,
Mhm.
because women entrepreneurship has skyrocketed within the last few years, and all the 70% of new businesses are women owned. And
Mhm.
so this is so exciting to be able to help inspire women to think outside of that box. So whether you've ever thought about entrepreneurship or not, just this whole idea of thinking outside of the box and saying, what's that dream that you've had inside your heart that fear's been telling you can't do. Maybe it's turning your hobby into a business. You know, maybe everybody always tells you you're the best baker that they've ever experienced. And you're like, yeah, I know. Right. But I'm just going to keep small. I'm going to keep thinking small over here and my family will get the blessing. Well, maybe that's okay. But maybe there's a bigger, like God-sized idea of like mountain moving, sea parting stuff that you're supposed to be involved in. And I think right now is even a better time because we're all forced to think outside of the box right now. Yeah. We're all forced to say, I don't know if my job's secure anymore. I don't know if my business is going to make it through this. Maybe I got to shift my thinking.
Right. So what would you say to somebody that's like you, that they had this idea or they want to do something for the past 20 years? What would you say like would help them finally turn their boat over?
Oh, I love that question. So I think in terms of a threefold approach that I inspire my clients with, and that's purpose, connection, and provision. And so I look at P as your purpose. So why am I here? What's my calling? You know, Simon Sinek's books start with why. People don't care what you do, why you do it.
Yeah.
And so why are you here? Like, what's that creative brilliance that I believe that God's planted in you and you alone that you're holding on to? Probably like me, because you were afraid or you were very comfortable. You know, we all like being comfortable. We don't like risk. We're very risk averse. But what is that purpose? And then your connections, I think maybe more importantly, is who are you surrounding yourself with? Who's speaking into this brain of yours? You know, because we have a tendency to surround ourselves with the wrong people. And sometimes the people who love us the most are our biggest critics. And we need to learn how to say, okay, I love you, but I need to not listen to you.
Right.
And so then the third one is your provision, is looking at what can I see provision, not just financially, but right now is such a good opportunity to love and give and serve to help heal our hurting humanity. And so what does your provision look like in terms of how can you receive, but also how can you give?
I like that. I had to write that down because I didn't want to forget it. And I want to reiterate it again.
Thank you.
Purpose, connection, and provision.
Yeah.
I love it when things are simplistic.
Oh my goodness. My whole thing is taking the complexities of life and demystifying them, because we make everything so complicated. It doesn't have to be.
And it's funny you say that, because I wanted to bring this up because I was on your website and I loved this. I don't even know what to call it, phrase or whatever. You said, become the commanding officer of your best you. I absolutely love that. Can you just speak to us about that a little bit?
Thank you. I love that, because going back to my background with the federal government, you know, in military lingo, you have a commander in chief, which in my case, if you're a person of faith, your commander in chief is God. And so, but he gives us free will. We can say, no, I reject you, I'm doing my own thing. Or we can say, okay, as my commander in chief, what's my playbook? I get to be the commanding officer who chooses, am I going to take the assignment? Am I going to take the mission? Am I going to move forward? Or am I going to do my own thing? So when we become the commanding officer, we still have the parameters of, you know, how do we live in this world? How do we treat each other? How do we treat ourselves? But we get to choose. And so I see so many people, like myself included, who can stay stuck in the brokenness and can stay stuck in the victim mindset. And right now, especially, we see a lot of messaging that says, no, you're a victim. No, you need to stay in this place of brokenness. And my path is no, that's a lie. Like, that's a lie. You know, Harriet Tubman, one of my favorite quotes, she freed 1,000 slaves, but she said she would have freed 1,000 more if only they knew they were slaves. So what are we staying slaves to? Like, is it a lie that we've believed that says I can't have a healthy relationship? Is it a lie that we believed I can't win with money? Is it a lie that we believed we can't be a successful entrepreneur? And so we get to choose, and we become that commanding officer that says, nope, I'm not listening to that. I'm moving forward in the path that God has planned out for me that says I'm an overcomer, not a victim.
Right, right. I love that. Love that.
Thank you.
So I want to get into, your actual, your, why can't I think right now? Your company, your entrepreneur, company that you're working on and your clients that you're working with.
Yeah.
What kind of clients do you typically work with and who comes to you?
Thank you. I love helping people of all backgrounds that are ready to break free from the lies. So I am very intentional, whether it's individuals, whether it's a relationship, or whether it's a community. So maybe it's a team at a business, maybe it's a community. And I'll give you an example of a community in a minute. But people who are ready to break free from that victim mindset, which is interestingly enough, is a tough sell. Because right now, especially, there's a lot of us that are really being told we should stay in the brokenness, and that I have a very strong opinion about that, because I'm a person who likes the proverb of don't give a man a fish, teach a man how to fish, or in your case, a woman.
Right.
And I'll tell you, so individuals, relationships, so maybe it's a husband, wife, maybe it's a mother and a daughter, a father and a son, like it's wherever the brokenness is, and looking at the whole person. So that your best university model looks at the central figure is you. So where is your pain point? What is going on in you that's causing you to stay stuck? And it could be vocationally, it could be financially, it could be spiritually, mentally, physically, relationally. It could be a combination of all of them. But we look at the big picture and we start saying, okay, how do we get you from that broken to the breakthrough, so that you're not just thriving, you're just fully revived in that overcomer story.
Right. Okay. And you brought up something about, not teaching a man to fish instead of, why can't I never get that right? My question is, do you ever find that some people just want the fish and they aren't willing to work to learn how to fish? And how do you deal with that?
Yes, which I try to be clear up front. Donald Miller says, if you confuse, you lose. And I think that is brilliant advice to every one of us. I try to be very clear before I accept any kind of, coaching or anything like that, that this is not a handout. This is not me just saying, here's your magic pill, take it and you'll be whatever. I want people to know that we talk about digging up roots. I don't know if you've ever pulled weeds in your life, but
maybe once. I'm not a garden person.
I'm not a super garden person either, but I'll tell you what, here's a great example. I live in Colorado and it's very dry here. So the soil is very hard. And pulling out weeds in Colorado is very different than when I was stationed in England. And it's just very, I know people don't like the M word, so I'll say very wet. So the soil is it's easy to pull roots out.
Okay.
Colorado, you've got to really get some tools and dig, and it is a lot of work. And so if you think of pulling out roots of the human heart, it's painful. And we don't like pain. We don't like hard stuff. We love the easy button. And so I try to be very clear with people that this is not an easy button. And I'm happy to give you a free gift. I'm happy to say, hey, here's 5 steps you can do today to have your breakthrough. But I'm telling you, there's more to it. You can get one easy win, but if you want the transformation, it's going to be a little bit more of a journey.
Right. I love that. And I think that clarification and that distinction is very important, because to your point, you can give them a solution. You can give all the tactics and tools in the world. But until you as the person are ready to dig in and do the work, it won't be effective.
Yeah. And so I honor the fact that, you know, we're all at different places in our journey. And just like me, I would be a hypocrite if I said, well, what's wrong with you? Like, I embrace empathy and compassion. And I say, no, I totally get it. You're not there. That's fine. But let's save you both some time and energy and say, like, this isn't a good fit. You know,
Right.
I'm happy to love you and give to serve to you other ways, but a long-term engagement is not
Right.
it.
Right. Gotcha. That makes sense. So you're working with people one-on-one, you're working with companies and groups, right? Anything else that you're doing in your
Well,
business?
so one of the things that I mentioned, and when I said individuals, relationships, and then communities, one of the things that I noticed right now, especially with everything going on in the world, it was really an invitation for me. Instead of saying this whole quote, and I can't remember exactly what it was, Martin Luther King, when he was talking about cursing at the darkness,
Mm,
instead of really being the light. And so how do we step into the darkness right now and say, I want to be part of that light. I want to offer hope and healing and health. And so it was really painful to all of us to watch everything that's going on with George Floyd and everything that's happening all over America right now. And I started to ask myself, well, how can I help? How can I step into that brokenness and offer light? And I thought about the civil rights movement, and I thought about the beautiful bravery of these people who said, we're going to march and we're going to peacefully protest, just like Dr. King inspired us. And we're going to say, this is not how you treat people.
mhm.
And I went back and I started doing some research, because as a Colorado girl, we didn't get a whole deep dive into history of the civil rights movement. We got like a 101 level.
Right.
And
I think
so
that's common in a lot of places. So it wasn't it's not just Colorado.
so I was ashamed of myself, and I thought, you know, I'm a huge abolitionist, and I think of William Wilberforce and the slave trade, and I feel like I should know more about what happened here. And so I looked at the roots of the civil rights movement, and I went back to Selma, Alabama.
Mhm.
And I was so proud of every person that rose up and said, I'm going to use my voice and I'm going to step out of the comfort zone, get out of my boat. Today, 2020, guess what the poorest city in Alabama is?
Selma. Mhm. Yeah.
And I want to throw up as I think about that, because I think, what have we done to fail this community of people who should be thriving and fully revived in their overcomer story? And what happened? Why aren't we loving and giving and serving and meeting people in Selma and saying, like, you're an overcomer? Like, why aren't we helping them elevate to their level of overcomer? And are we allowing that victim mentality to keep them there? And is it intentional? And it made me sick to think about these things. And so I thought, how do you meet with communities like Selma and say, I have things that can help, and I want to meet you, and I'm not giving you a handout. I'm wanting to meet people where they are and say, I see you. I haven't forgotten you. You're part of the journey of overcomer. Like, let's get you into that overcomer story. And how do you have those conversations with
Right.
community leaders to say, you're failing the people of Selma, Alabama? And I know, believe me, they're not the only community, but that community of all should be thriving more than any other community in the United States, in my opinion.
So are you working with them now? Is that
So,
what oh,
so all that to say, so I reached out, and
okay.
I'm hopeful, you know, and it's this is the thing I love. This is the thing I love about the world we live in today, is technology. Like, I don't have to live in Selma to offer help to Selma.
Right.
Now, whether or not they're going to say, okay, crazy lady who lives in Colorado, who we don't know,
Right.
maybe not. But my point is, look around you. I mean, there's opportunity zones right here in Colorado where there's minority populations who have been oppressed in generational poverty, who need people to help them. Financial management, life skills. How do you have a successful marriage? How do you think about entrepreneurship? Simple things like helping communities understand that you have a greater success or chance for success in all of the elements that we cover if you graduate from high school, if you don't get pregnant in high school, and if you stay focused on, you know, how do you get out, how do you break out of generational poverty? And so when kids aren't being told these things because their community has believed a lie, it's very hard to break out of that.
Right, right.
So anyway, so I'm like, okay, I'm on detective mode, and I'm like, where are my touch points? Where can I love and serve and give to help heal? Because right now there's so much pain in the nation, in the world, and I just think there's so much opportunity to love.
Right. And it's funny you bring that up. I was just having a conversation yesterday with another coach, and we got on the topic of underserved populations, or populations that fall into the lower socioeconomic status range and things like that. And how do you bring services like this to those communities when you are a for-profit business? Like, what do you do for those communities and organizations that can't afford your top tier services, but still really need the information and the impact and the influence?
You know what I love, Erika, and this is something that I think you would be fabulous at, is look for your philanthropist type people in the community, because they could sponsor, like they could do a corporate sponsorship of your programs. And they could say, I believe in your mission, I believe in, you know, even reach out to every state right now has opportunity zone representative who's going specifically into those communities to try to bring more of the big type of corporate stuff. But they have within that community, they have a point person who's connected with all the leadership, all, you know, the political, the socioeconomic, and I can't say that word, socioeconomic, yes. Like the business team of all of that community. And if they see your passion and your vision for wanting to help that community, I guarantee that you'll get a corporate sponsor that'll say, like, yeah, you're not doing this for free, but we'll fund your initiative.
Right. That's a great point. It's a great point for any coaches out there that are looking to have more impact. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. So I think I lost my train of thought because we got into this topic that was so interesting that I just forgot everything else. But and I know where I was going, you know, and working with this population of just people that have brokenness in them. And we touched on this a little bit, but how do you maintain your own joy and peace in trying to inspire and encourage and help these other people?
Well, thank you. That's such a good question, because we always remember that I always think of not that any of us are flying right now, but when we used to fly, we would always put our oxygen mask on first.
Right.
And so this whole idea of, I am not going to be able to sustain if I'm not taking care of myself. So that self-care, everything I said about purpose, connection, and provision, like I have to do myself. And my number one as a person of faith is spending time with the Lord. And so that is my priority, like 100%. That's got to happen. So because that's the joy, that's everything about who I am is only because of Jesus. And so if I'm forgetting that he is the reason for everything I am, everything I do, I'm not going to be effective in anything.
Right.
So that's my priority. But things like eating right, I love sugar, love it. But but I know it's really not good for me. And I noticed the other day, it's a funny example. I went to Sonic.
Okay.
One of many vices. And I went to Sonic And I usually am a pretty good whole foods, fruits, vegetables, nuts, berries, you know, like I could be an animal. Like I could easily survive out in the woods. But I went to Sonic and I got a grilled cheese. I got onion rings, and I got one of their blasts, like a Sonic M&M blast.
Mhm.
My stomach, the next day I was like, I felt like I was hungover. I was like, I don't feel very
Right. Right. Yeah.
But even simple things like that, like when you don't take care of your body, you know, I've got my massive jug of water right here. Like if we don't take cheers. It's simple things like hydration. You know, if we don't take care of our bodies, if we don't sleep, I need a good 8 hours or I'm a zombie. And so simple things like that we practice daily, self-care, you know, and so spiritual, mental, physical, all of that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Completely agree. If I don't get my 8 hours, sometimes 9,
Yeah.
I'm oh
It's
my,
so funny because when we were kids, we used to hate naps.
I
I
know.
love naps. Naps are my friend.
Especially the little quick ones, just like 20 minutes, rejuvenate, get back up, and go. So,
Power nap.
right, exactly. Okay. Well, KP, you know, I know we're coming up on time soon, but I want to ask you one question about your business and your life, and kind of when you think 5 years from now, you know, where do you see KP and your business and your impact on the people that you work for and that you're called to work with?
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That's such a good question. This is a theme of mine is this idea of passing the baton, if you will, the teaching the man to fish. There's a song, I don't know if you know it, but it's called Only Jesus, and it talks about leaving a legacy. And I don't want people to remember me. I want them to remember the creative brilliance that inspired them to do their creative brilliance. If that
Mm,
makes sense.
yeah.
So in passing the baton, I don't hold on to the baton and run with the person to the finish line. I give them the power and the authority to take what I've learned and to do it in their community. So right now, you know, all over the world, humanity's hurting. And when we can step into that brokenness and say, I have a nugget I'd like to share with you, and allow you to adapt it to your community. So I'm not trying to like hold on to all this stuff and, you know, amass this empire. I want to say, I think I have something you could use. We'll use Selma, for example. I don't want them to say like, oh, this is a KP LoveJoy thing. I want them to say, this is a Selma, Alabama thing. We took what she gave us and we adapted it and we made it better for us because we know our community best. And this girl in Colorado, yeah, she doesn't know us, but she gave us something that we could really use.
Right.
So that's my, you know, you think of when a man and a woman come together and have a baby, have a child, like there's pieces of the dad, there's pieces of the mom in the DNA in that baby, but that baby's uniquely, fearfully, and wonderfully made, unique of anyone else on this earth.
Yeah.
But there's pieces of mom and there's pieces of dad. So that's kind of like, I'm going to give you some of my DNA and you take it. I don't want to be like, hey, wait, that's mine.
Right. Right. Oh my gosh. You have like the most amazing like analogies and memory for quotes and stuff that I need like just a few of your brain cells.
Oh, girl, you have no idea how not true that statement is. I can't remember which direction is home some days.
Oh gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay. That was awesome. So thank you so much for sharing, KP. If you've seen any of the shows, then you know that you cannot leave without going through our Fab Four, which are just some quick questions, just to kind of bring a little bit more fun and just
Yeah.
craziness, because I'm not normal. So
Yay, I love it. Normal is a setting on your dryer. We're not
telling you the analogies. I love them. You just
that's Patsy Claremont.
is it?
It's a fun book from probably the 90s, but
Okay.
she wrote a book called Normal's Just a Setting on Your Dryer.
I like that. Oh gosh. Okay, here we go. Here we go. KP, if you had one superpower, what would it be?
Oh, wow.
I mean, you're Kim Possible. Like,
Superpower. I think that it would be as hard as it would be to see inside the heart of the people that I'm around. Like to be able to like what brought you to where you are. Like the man on the 4th of July. Like I want to see like how did you get here? I want to see inside your heart so I can know what's your story and how do we get you to your overcomer story.
I love that. I can see you having that superpower already, to be honest.
Oh, thank you.
All right, the next one. If you could have dinner with any 3 people, dead or alive, who would it be?
Oh man. Oh. There is a guy that, and I'm going to mess up his name right now. I think his name's Isaiah Washington. And not many people know this, but the book Uncle Tom's Cabin was actually inspired by his story.
Huh.
It's a fictitious book, but Isaiah Washington like was a real person, and his autobiography. Oh, that man. I love him. And so I think he would be one, and I probably botched his name, so maybe you can edit that.
Okay.
I would say I'm going to stick with my theme of abolitionists, William Wilberforce and Harriet Tubman.
Okay. Awesome.
Oh gosh, now that's got to be 3 because we've got to include my brain is blocked today. Frederick Douglass. I'm going to put 4.
Okay, we'll have 4. We'll add extra chair. All right, if you could choose a song to represent your life, essentially a theme song for your life, what would it be?
Yeah, so there is a song for King and Country, and it's called Choose Joy, or maybe it's just called Joy, and it's literally like I choose joy. So every day I think that we have to remember it, like it's not like this magical thing that just happens, you choose it.
Right. And there's so many things that can take you down a whole other direction if you don't.
Yeah, and try to steal your joy.
Mm-hmm. All right, the last one is a 3-part, and it's just finish the statement. I love.
Ooh, I love this one.
I love.
I love popcorn. I do. Sometimes I'll go to a movie theater just to buy popcorn, and I'm not watching a movie, and then I'll buy it and it's ridiculously expensive, and they'll say, enjoy your movie. And I'm like, oh no, I'm going home. I just wanted the popcorn.
I was not expecting that answer at all. Do you put like candy in your popcorn?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't. I don't understand the milk duds in popcorn people.
I don't do it either. So
I've tried it and it's not my thing.
It's not good.
I mean, I'm sure it's good to the people who love it, but it's
right,
not.
It's not your thing. All right. I dream of.
I dream of the day when people will love like they want to be loved.
That would be an amazing day.
Yeah, I'm going to cry just thinking about it.
Okay. All right. Last one. I am.
Oh, I am Kim Possible.
I love it. Yes, you are Kim Possible. KP, thank you so much for being a guest on our show today. Let the audience know where they can find you.
Thank you so much. This was really fun, Erika. And I do love give and serve. So I think the best way to find me is at my website is lovejoy.today. Okay. So you can have more love and more joy today. I didn't want a .com. I didn't want a .org. I was like, okay, lovejoy.today. Like it's very simple. So that's the best place. And I have a free resource on there for, it's basically a resilience tracker that looks at all the components we talked about and helps you identify, like, how are you doing, like a resilience checkup, and what's the plan of action for getting you from that broken to breakthrough. So that's a quick win. But then there's all sorts of information about what I'm up to with the different courses, workshops, webinars, content licensing, all of that stuff.
Okay. And the tracker, is it just on the website? Is it a different link that we need to get there?
No, in fact, if you go to the website, it'll pop up right when you first get to the website. It'll say, like, you know, if you want your free resilience tracker, da 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 da.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll be sure, as always, guys, I'll put that in the comments. And when you go to our website, you'll see it in the script notes and things like that. So don't worry if you didn't get to write it all down. I got you. So,
So got you. She's the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that's all the time we have today, guys. As always, thank you for joining us. If you've missed any of the episodes, you know where to go. And if you don't, go over to drerikabydesign.com and you can catch up on all the episodes you missed. And while you're there, be sure to sign up for our By Design Digest so you can stay up to date with what's going on, get some details and information and tips and tools about how to live your best life and live your life by design. And you won't miss any of the great things that we have coming up in the future. So thanks again. See you next Thursday. Bye, guys.
Thank you.